everyone. I hope you are well. This engraving is going to be interesting. It's more of a pattern. I'm going to be engraving the skin of a leopard. And I have chosen a very cheap half-pint tankard, quite thick. Not my normal type of glass for hand engraving, but this is going to be a demonstration purposes only, and also a lot of engravers, especially those starting out, really tend to stick to a cheaper glass anyway. So let's see how it turns out. It'll be interesting. I want to show the body underneath, slight movement in the shape of the body underneath before I add the hair and all the shading. So yeah, an interesting little exercise. Let's have some fun.
First up, a very large diamond burr, very rough, and lots of water flowing, but of course you don't have to have water. Get your mask on and get your goggles on, or whatever you want to put on to protect your eyes. You can see the dust that's flying off there. I had a mask. I didn't have my dust extractor on, but I should have really, because vast amounts of dust coming off, and I'm very lucky that I have got a dust extractor. The water, of course, making it much easier. And what I'm trying to do here, as I mentioned, I wanted to make some sort of movement underneath. It really meant nothing on this particular piece because I don't know what part of the animal it is, and I'm just making movement underneath a ridge of some sort. So it could be anything, and it could be at any angle, for example a bit of a shoulder or something, as I mentioned. But I just wanted to show you how, if it has got lumps and bumps underneath you create that first, and then on comes the hair. And it's really important that the hair is all going to be level. So now I'm holding this great big diamond. In fact, I've actually changed it. I've changed it to a sintered diamond here, just because it is newer and it's a rough one, and I've got it on its side, and you can see that I'm going in the direction of the hair, which is actually all over the place. It moves around quite a lot. You will also notice that I am ignoring the black spots at this point. I mean, I can see them. I can see them actually quite well because the engraving is wet, and also I have got a really good light. And the more you put the light behind it, the more you will be able to see. At this point, I can see enough. And in fact, even you can see where the black dots are through this really, really rough engraving. But first of all, as I say, I'm going in the direction of the hair. You will notice when I was making the ridge, I was all over the place because all I wanted to do was grind away the glass. I wasn't too particularly bothered about the direction of the hair yet there. So now I've got a Dura White, and I'm demonstrating to you the action that I am going to be using. A flick up, flick down, flick up, flick down, flick up, flick down. And this helps to blend in a hairy sort of motion. Now, if you keep flicking down and you press hard first, you will notice those blobs. You don't want a blob at the top, so keeping it light, very light touch. I'm only going at about 13,000 RPM, which is not very fast at all. You don't need it fast for a Dura White. Now I am going actually with water, and it's mainly so that I can see the direction of the hair. Making the engraving wet, of course, means you can see through it a bit better for this purpose. But using this Dura White, which is flat on top, it gives it a nice, sharp, hairy sort of effect. Giving it a half tone. It just chews into the white engraving, half toning it very nicely for me. The only drawback of using water, of course, with a soft stone is that it is going to wear out a bit faster. So if you're confident with the direction, there we go, you can see a little bit of it working. If you're confident with the direction and you don't need to see through, it is better, in fact, to work dry with this little Dura White. You can keep flattening the top as well, which will sharpen the edge, which will give you some nice, sharp, hairy halftones. You can see that I am now working dry anyway. It's clearer for you to see. Well, I was for a moment. There's a bit of water coming out again. But working dry is much easier. You can see it clearer when you're working yourself. This is, as it is always, a bit like an oil painting. You can build up and change so many times, but for the moment we are just creating the canvas that we need. So now I'm showing you in normal speed at the moment. I had been going 300% of normal speed. This is normal speed, just so that you can see the flick up, flick down motion. I really could be doing with flattening the top again. I can see that it's a little bit rounded and it's not as... Oh, there you go. Here I'm using the original large diamond that I was engraving the glass with, and I'm just slowly turning it against it. And turning the Dura White as well in my other hand, just so that I get an even top. You can see quite clearly now how these strokes are quite obvious. This is the other way of creating your areas so that you don't have to worry about keeping the artwork there. Just simply draw around. This is a non-permanent little marker, and it washes off quite easily with water anyway, so you don't have to worry too much about it. Don't use a permanent marker because that will be a bit of a pain. Zooming along at 300% of normal speed with the nice sharp Dura White. When this is at normal speed, of course, you are taking your time and you are making sure you virtually engraving hair by hair. I know that sounds ridiculous, but when you've got the radio on in the background and you're not really thinking, it's so therapeutic. It's like knitting. You just get on with it. Do not try and do this in such a hurry that you're using a great big fat diamond, doing a few big chunky hairs. Make an effort to make it look hairy. If it's hairy, it's not it unless you're doing a shaggy dog with great big stringy thick hair. This needs to look like delicate hairs. Okay, so now I am out with very large, very rough rubber. Now, I just decided to pick this up and use it. Quite frankly, you can use just about any rubber and just build up. I'm going over the Dura White areas. I'm not paying too much attention. I'm just darkening them, that's all. This rubber is not going to make any directions. You can just scribble over the top of it. And all you're trying to do is get some contrast in at this stage. I will be darkening it even more later on. When you run your fingers over the top of the surface now, the only dent that you feel is the dent that I put in right in the beginning, the big sort of groove. Everything else feels like just simple surface engraving, except for the lines, the direction of the lines. Here I am just adding a few more middle bits. You know, in the middle of some of the large black dots. They're not always white. Sometimes they're a bit of a half tone. So I was just building them up a little bit with a Dura White there. And here I have got a large black rubber disc, which is quite hard. Again, a disc, use any disc if you've got a disc. All it's going to do, it's quite effective because of the amount of surface that is going to zoom around. And if you can get a nice hard one, that works quite well. And because of the shape of the mark that it leaves, I am making sure that I keep the flow the same direction as the hair. Okay, here you can see the hair is going up, it's going across, it's going down, it's going across. It's really, and down again over on that side. It's really, really all over the place. And so here is the crucial moment. You get your lovely, oh, forget that for the moment. I suddenly thought, no, you know what, I'm going to take out the smooth rubber. Sorry, guys. This is a very, very smooth rubber. You hardly feel anything when you touch it and with your finger. And all that is doing is taking away some of the debris, not the debris, the sort of gunk that's left behind by the black rubber. So now I've got this lovely diamond. It's a lovely sharp diamond. If anything that's fine on the top, creating literally one hair at a time. Okay? Don't freak out. As I say, just go with the flow. It's good fun. Now, the key here is flicking down into the dark area and flicking up into the dark area. And this gives the impression that the dark area has got dark hairs flicking up as well. And rather than trying to make a dark stroke, you're making the dark stroke in a negative sort of way by creating it using the white stroke. It's really quite simple at the end of the day. But don't start your stroke in the black area. I've got to say I'm not overly impressed with the polished out area. Okay, I didn't spend too long on it, to be honest, but this glass is so tough that when you're trying to polish back an area, especially with that really strong rubber, this glass doesn't want to know about it. Whereas if it was lead crystal, it would have beautifully polished it into a very, very clear area. Very difficult to try and get the same sort of effect when you are doing the entire leopard in about 6 centimeters square. You know what I mean? It's it's a tricky one, but doing it at a large scale like this is quite easy to get the right effect. Now I'm using the Dura White. I've sharpened it again, flattened the top. And I'm going to give the very, very edges a mixture of the diamond flick and the half-tone flick. I mean, this is just a demonstration bit of fun. I'm probably going to be stuck with this jolly old half pint forever now because it's just so random. But usually the Dura White gives a nice softer edge, especially when you're doing like the portrait of a dog and it's sort of it's the sort of chest area. It's going to finish down at the chest area, and just flicking down with a Dura White has a lovely finish. Now, because the animal is not all exactly white and black or light coloured and black, there are sort of darker orangey areas in between. I just threw in a bit of half tone here and there. And then I decided to just add a few more bits of shading. This rubber is not too bad when it comes to just adding the odd little extra bit of shade. Almost there. There we go. A hairy half pint. Quite interesting. I don't think I've ever done a great big patch of hair on a glass before. Interesting little dent there. As I say, I don't know what it is, but just demonstrates an idea of how to show the movement underneath the shape of the body. So of course I've signed it 2023. Now there's a space down the side, and just for the hell of it, I'm just for the moment writing it on in pencil. I thought it would be quite nice to have something going up the side just to fill in that space. If you're going to hand engrave it upside down so that the handle is not in the way. So I hope you enjoyed that, everybody. There's your hairy half pint. Happy engraving. Bye for now.